What if everything you thought you knew about the Duchess of Sussex was a carefully edited illusion? What if the real story was never the fairy tale, but the silence in between? Everything you thought you knew about the Duchess of Sussex is now being dismantled piece by piece by the very people who shared her blood and her past. In a sterile hospital room in Mexico, far from the manicured lawns of Montecito, a fuse was lit that now threatens to incinerate one of the most carefully crafted public images in modern history. As Thomas Markle lay battling for his life in late 2025, the silence from his second daughter, Meghan, was no longer just a family feud. It became the catalyst for total war. Samantha Markle emerged from that hospital room with what she calls a vow of truth, armed with a secret that doesn't just suggest a hidden past, but an entirely different life Meghan allegedly tried to erase from the world's memory. The air in that hospital ward was heavy with more than the sound of heart monitors. For Thomas Markle, a man whose name has become synonymous with royal rejection, the physical pain of major heart surgery was nothing compared to the spiritual wound of an empty chair beside him. Insiders claim Thomas made desperate final attempts to reach his daughter in California, leaving emotional voicemails and heart-wrenching texts that were met with silence. But during those weakened, whispered moments, the vault of secrets reportedly cracked open. Thomas allegedly spoke of another child, a granddaughter kept in the shadows, a remnant of a life Meghan supposedly scrubbed clean. Samantha watched her father deteriorate under the weight of rejection and decided the time for protection was over. The hospital vigil ended, and a global hunt for the truth began. But to understand the daughter in the shadows, we must look at the chapter Meghan has spent 2 decades trying to turn into a ghost. Long before Hollywood producers and British princes, there was a law student in Chicago named Joe Giuliano. He is the specter Meghan Markle allegedly believed she had erased. Joe was not just a college romance. He was the heir to an old-money Chicago family, the kind of partner who fit the ambitions of a young woman hungry for power and luxury. Their story began in the late 90s at Northwestern University, where Meghan was already refining the poise that would one day captivate a monarchy. According to those close to the Giuliano family, they believed they saw the warning signs early, a young actress intensely drawn to the trappings of wealth. The relationship reportedly moved quickly from elite Chicago restaurants to a neon-lit chapel in Las Vegas between 1999 and 2000. There was no royal spectacle, no global press, only a discreet exchange of vows that would later become a legal complication. The marriage lasted mere months before the Giuliano patriarchs intervened. They sought not just a divorce, but an annulment, a declaration that the union had never legally existed. That distinction matters. An annulment implies deception or misrepresentation, a complete erasure from the record. The Giuliano family allegedly believed Joe was being used as a stepping stone and retained high-powered attorneys to ensure Meghan was removed from their lineage. For 2 decades, reports claim a substantial settlement and strict non-disclosure agreements kept Joe silent. Now that silence is said to be fracturing. Fragments of what are described as Nevada marriage records and private photographs of a young couple have begun circulating among investigative circles, suggesting the first marriage was more than rumor. It was a chapter buried in desert sand. Yet the marriage itself is not the most explosive allegation. At the center of this storm is a young woman in her mid-20s who has reportedly lived her entire life in secrecy. Samantha Markle and Joe Giuliano now allege that this woman is the daughter Meghan gave birth to and later left behind. The pregnancy allegedly occurred during that brief marriage, which they claim explains the rushed Vegas ceremony. When the union was annulled, the Giuliano family is said to have taken full custody, raising the child in security and privilege, yet without her biological mother. While Meghan was building a new identity in Hollywood, the eldest child allegedly watched from afar as her mother became one of the most recognized women in the world, yet remained a stranger to her own blood. Those who claim to know the young woman describe her as intelligent, accomplished, but carrying a visible emotional fracture. At 18, she reportedly reached out to Meghan seeking acknowledgement. The response, according to these claims, was silence. The same silence Thomas Markle experienced in his hospital bed. That moment has become the emotional core of Samantha's campaign. Samantha has issued a direct public challenge: take a DNA test, a straightforward scientific request that could either dismantle the allegations or silence them forever. Yet the quiet from Montecito continues, and to critics, that quiet is growing louder. When examining the pattern laid out by detractors, they describe a ladder of strategic unions. Joe Giuliano represented access to old money and social standing. When that path closed, the chapter closed with it. Then came Trevor Engelson, the Hollywood producer who opened doors in the entertainment world. Their 2011 wedding in Jamaica was public and polished, a sharp contrast to Las Vegas. But after Suits gained success, the marriage ended abruptly in 2013, leaving Engelson largely silent. Then came the ultimate ascent, Prince Harry. The 2018 royal wedding was not only romantic spectacle, but global brand elevation. With connections like Marcus Anderson, Meghan stepped into the highest tiers of influence. Critics argue the pattern remained consistent: reshape the narrative, center victimhood, sever inconvenient ties. Samantha's claims suggest Harry may have been unaware of a complex history kept carefully out of view. If the allegations were true, he did not rescue a damsel in distress, but became the final rung on a ladder that began decades earlier in a Vegas chapel. Supporters dismiss these claims as fiction, yet critics point to what they describe as mounting evidence. Alleged time-stamped photographs of a visibly pregnant Meghan at private gatherings, audio recordings said to feature Joe pleading for acknowledgement, and side-by-side image comparisons circulating online. There are references to court documents detailing annulment proceedings and alleged custody arrangements. None have been publicly authenticated, yet the narrative is gaining traction. This has become more than a family dispute. It is portrayed as a brand crisis. Archewell was built on compassion, authenticity, and family. If the figurehead of that brand were proven to have concealed such a chapter, the reputational damage would be severe. Corporate observers speculate about contract reviews, while royal commentators suggest the monarchy would face renewed scrutiny. For Prince Harry, the implications would be deeply personal. He distanced himself from his family in pursuit of a new life. If critical details were withheld, the emotional impact would be profound. Samantha Markle has announced plans for a televised sit-down to present what she calls her full dossier: Joe Giuliano's account, Thomas Markle's reflections, and potentially a statement from the alleged daughter are expected to feature. Samantha frames this as a pursuit of justice for a father who nearly died alone and for a young woman raised in secrecy. As the narrative shifts into the legal arena, the conflict has reportedly reached the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. Samantha's legal argument centers on what she calls the right to narrative integrity, claiming that public interviews presented a simplified origin story that erased key relationships. Motions, dismissals, and renewed filings have turned Florida courtrooms into battlegrounds. At issue are specific years between 1999 and 2004, a period critics argue remains insufficiently detailed in public biographies. The strategy, according to analysts, is to compel sworn testimony. For someone whose brand rests on personal truth, the prospect of courtroom cross-examination would be daunting. Online speculation has also entangled extended family members, though recent whispers suggest the alleged daughter lives privately in Chicago under another name. The debate intensified when Meghan joked on her lifestyle show about a fictional child, a moment supporters called humor and critics labeled deflection. Meanwhile, Thomas Markle's declining health, including a reported amputation in late 2025, has added emotional gravity. From a rehabilitation center, he contrasts sharply with Montecito's curated image. Thomas Jr. has used social media to criticize his sister's distance, claiming she sent formal correspondence but no personal visit. Timing has amplified the tension. As Meghan prepares new professional ventures in 2026, fresh allegations continue to surface. Reports of settlements, wire transfers, and medical records circulate without official confirmation. At the heart of it all remains the DNA ultimatum. The phrase "take the test" trends repeatedly online. It is a request that bypasses public relations and legal nuance. Refusal fuels suspicion. Compliance could end speculation. The alleged young woman, if she exists as described, is no longer an abstract rumor, but a person with unanswered questions. Branding experts warn that in an era obsessed with authenticity, even unproven allegations can erode trust. Sources claim strain within the Sussex household as headlines multiply. Whether these claims hold substance or collapse under scrutiny, the narrative has reached its most volatile phase. Samantha's forthcoming televised summit promises documents, testimony, and confrontation.